All right. So at 8:15 this morning, the chief compliance officer received an email from our third-party threat intelligence partners that states a sample of patient records associated with the organization has been identified for sale on the dark web forum, on a dark web forum. It allegedly includes names, date of birth, insurance information, and partial social security numbers. At this time, there's no reported outages, ransomware notes, or known active security incidents, and all core systems appear operational. Um, so you guys are going to help me figure out what's going on. Um, we're going to start. You guys can ask clarifying questions. Um, like I said earlier, I know information is limited, but otherwise, you guys will discuss detection methods here and decide amongst yourselves what you're looking for with them, what you're hoping to find, and which ones you guys want to do. And these ones up here, the established ones, you guys get a little bonus to your dice roll here when we do them. And then down here is just normal. 1 to 10 is a failing dice roll, and 11 to 20 is a passing one. If you guys pass, say isolation, if isolation would be a reveal for our initial compromise, for example, I would flip that and give you guys part of the story based on what you guys discover. So that being said, does anybody have anything that they would like to look at? Any clarifying questions you would like to ask? Feel free to unmute and discuss amongst yourselves anything that sounds like it would be a good first step based on the incident. And if you guys want any closer looks, just let me know and I'll open up any of these so you can take a better look.
I'm just listening in today. I won't be able to participate.
That's fine. You can type in the chat as well if you have ideas or questions. Hey Samuel, how's it going? Anybody seeing anything that looks interesting or any clarifying questions?
I guess you can always start opening the boxes, maybe one by one, and telling them a bit of what it entails and stuff.
Yeah. Well, for your established detections, you guys have firewall log analysis. You can analyze the logs generated by the firewall to monitor network traffic patterns, detect unauthorized access, and identify anomalies such as unusual connections or high traffic volumes. You have network threat hunting, where you analyze network traffic and you hunt for signs of malicious activities, such as unusual protocols, C2 communications, or data exfiltration. You have isolation, where you can quarantine compromised systems or network segments to prevent further spread of malicious activity containing threats while enabling secure investigation and remediation. And then your last established detection is permissions audit, where you guys examine configurations such as IAM roles in Microsoft Active Directory, AWS, Azure AD permissions, or file access controls to detect excessive privileges, unauthorized access, or potential insider threats. Do any of those sound interesting? You have a couple?
I have a couple of seconds, so I am just going to say the first thing I'm going to want to do is look at logs for suspicious activity.
Look at logs, firewall logs here. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that one? You can
See, I was kind
unmute
of
and
thinking
talk.
that. I was thinking that, but at the same time, I was thinking because we know that things were already stolen, when so we know the system that was infiltrated. Wouldn't we want to isolate that first?
So was it stated in there that we know the system though? Do you know the system?
I'm sorry, what was that, Gladys?
Was it stated in the scenario? Do we have the system?
We do not.
Oh
It's
no,
something
you're
you
right.
still
Okay.
have to find, you know. So
Okay.
let me give you a brief description here for everyone to kind of, I know the brain is still cold and stuff, you know. So let's kick the brain off. So these scenarios are meant to teach you guys how to think, how to analyze as an analyst, right? So whenever you work in like a SOC or in JLC, whatever space you work in, you're going to be required to think critically, to be able to make decisions on your own with or without your teammates. So these sessions that we do are for more helping you like try to think, okay, if I had this thing in front of me, what would I do with it? How would I resolve this issue? Because this is literally how it works on the job. So this is more like on the job practice right here in front of you, what you'll be doing at work. So you need to be able to make decisions on your next step, like what do I need to do next? What am I missing in this scenario? What do I need to find, right? So I think I'll have Hayden repeat the scenario again. And then you guys are going to talk together and try to find what is the missing piece in here. What is something that we need to move on in this investigation? Like Pablo just mentioned, quarantining. That's a great option. However, can we quarantine something we don't have? Like we don't know the host yet. We don't know who did this, who's the employee, whatever. We don't have any information. So let's try to find how this happened or whatever we want to find. Like what do we need is the direction that I want you guys to be thinking in. And again, feel free to type in the chat if you can't talk. And by the way, Pablo, you don't have to use your camera. That's not a requirement. You can turn your
Okay.
camera off if you want to. Yeah. But um, everyone is welcome to contribute, unmute themselves at any time, or typing in the chat. So that's kind of a bit of the background on what backdoors and breaches is. So Hayden, I'll give it back to you, and maybe let's repeat the scenario again and try to see what we can find.
Of course. Yep. So this morning, the chief compliance officer got an email from our third-party threat intelligence partner telling us that samples of patient records that are associated with our hospital were identified for sale on a dark web forum. The samples include names, date of birth, insurance information, and partial social security numbers. There's no reported outages, ransomware notes, and no active security incidents, and all core systems appear operational. And there are, I didn't write it here, I can add it though. There are no support tickets at the time related to this, so um, we don't know where it originated from. So it is up to you guys to discuss from there where you want to start first in your investigation. Like Gladys said, you guys can chat over audio, or if you guys can't talk, because I know some of you said you're at work, feel free to type in the chat, and we'll also be doing votes in the chat as necessary if we're torn between a couple of options here.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think I agree with
And
Dawn.
to give you guys a hint, first step is always like Hayden put down there. Those are the steps you're gonna have to follow on the bottom. So first step is initial compromise. Now is a step to figure out what happened. How did this happen? Just a hint.
Don thinks we should do threat hunting and log analysis. What do you think, Pablo, or anyone else here?
Yeah, I agree with Dawn at this point.
What do you guys want to be looking for with that?
Like I I want to say I don't think unauthorized would be the right word, but we want to look for weird um, IP
Yep.
addresses, timestamps.
Anomalies.
Yeah,
Eric? Which one did you say you agreed with? Don said threat hunting and log analysis for suspicious IPs and anomalies. These are both in your established detections. Does anybody else have any thoughts here? Linda, Danielle, Emma, or Samuel?
I also think, good morning, everyone. I also think threat hunting is good. I also like the firewall log analysis because this information is leaked already. I don't know if we want to do like, it says actively hunt for signs of malicious activity. So probably
active.
firewall
This one's
log analysis.
So it sounds like Linda's more for the firewall log analysis. Why don't you guys either say, why don't you guys say in the chat what you guys want to do based on the two, the log analysis and network threat hunting?
I also want to add on that with the firewall log analysis, we could take a look at whether a big chunk of data was sent out or not, to kind of narrow down like when this may have occurred.
True. What about you, Pablo? Do you agree with firewall log analysis?
Yeah, I do.
All right. You guys are looking for some. All right, so let's do our roll. 10, but that's +3 from the established detection, which means you guys succeeded. Let me see if that is a detection for any of those. All right, so we're gonna go with firewall log analysis. You guys revealed the initial access compromise was through bring your own exploited device. Organization allows users to bring their own devices. The attackers compromise the user's personal device to connect to your networks and organization's network. And with that, there's a few extra details here. Where are they? All right, so looking through that, we can see that the VPN logs show a successful login from a billing employee's account during normal working hours. The login originated from the employee's registered home IP address. Shortly after the VPN connection, internal file share access began from that session. Endpoint telemetry shows that the VPN session was established from a personal device, not a company-issued laptop, and the personal device is not enrolled in full EDR monitoring, only basic compliance checks. That's a little easier for you guys. Off to a great start, guys. That is 1 turn. All right.
So does that mean that any three, the permission audit, oh maybe not that one, maybe that one, network threat hunting and firewall log analysis, any of those three will work?
Yeah, any of these three would have
Okay.
found that this was the initial compromise.
Gotcha.
But now that we've done firewall log analysis and we found information with it, we can't use that for 3 turns. Don't lost sound for a moment. All right, so Don will be right back. But in the meantime, does anybody have any suggestions? You see, we have a couple new people here. Now that we found a card, this seems like a good time to rehash what we just went through. Quick rundown, 8:15 this morning, Chief Compliance Officer got an email from third-party threat intelligence partners stating sample patient records associated with the hospital were identified for sale on a dark web forum. Sample includes names, date of birth, insurance information, and partial social security numbers. There's no outages, ransomware notes, support tickets, or security incidents, and all systems are operational. And we just did firewall log analysis, which showed us that the initial compromise was through bring your own exploited device. Some information here for anyone who would like to look at it. We were in the midst of deciding where we want to go next. Feel free to unmute yourself or type in the chat if you can't.
Yeah, for those who just came in, I think Hayden just went through the scenario, but I wanted to again emphasize the importance of this for you guys. It will help you in your critical thinking because these are the skills that you need to be able to do your job whenever you get the job, or even be able to analyze questions in the interview. So this is a potential thing that you could be speaking on sorry, this is something you could be speaking about on your interviews. Remember, when you're having an interview, you always want to speak about the things that you know versus the things that you don't know. So if you master how to do backdoors and breaches, for example, you can use this in the interview and talk to the interviewer about the things that you have done with respect to this and how you went through the whole incident. So keep in mind that this is very, very important for you guys, and that's why we do it once a month right now. um, this is called backdoors and breaches, and it's critical thinking. So you go through an incident just like you would in a real world environment. So while we're going through this, don't try to isolate yourself. Try to think with other people and bring in your feedback. There is no right or wrong answer here. No one's gonna laugh at you here. If you have any feedback, put it in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, feel free to do that and speak about the things that you think. No one is perfect here, right? So don't be shy to put in your opinions. If you need any of the cards on the board to be open, just let Hayden know, and he will open any of the cards for you to see more about it because it's really, really small on the screen, right? He can open any for you to see more details if you want to understand more about a specific card, and then we move on from there. But I did give some directions on what we're looking for. Scroll down a little bit on the right, Hayden, please, on your notes. So we have all of these steps, which are basically part of the incident response steps. So if you understand incident response, or if you don't, this is the place to understand how incident response work. The first thing, we already unlocked the first one, right? You guys already did the first step of uncovering the initial compromise, and it told you exactly how that happened, right? So your next step is going to be try to uncover what is the pivot. So once they got in, how did they pivot into other systems? How did they escalate? So now we're looking to open other cards to figure that out. So don't be shy to come in and look at the cards and see what you think will be open. It's all a teamwork. I'm only here to guide you guys where needed. Type kind of like a consultant type thing where you're blocked. I will be here to help you unstuck that. So I will stay quiet and continue watching. Good luck, you guys.
It's worth noting too, to anybody who would like to get a closer look. The photo that I used in the posts for this is this board, so you guys can also take a look at that as well if you want a better look. Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself or type in the chat, ask clarifying questions, um, discuss amongst yourselves, ask me if there's anything you guys would like to take a look at. You guys still have 3 established detection methods here, and then a whole list of other detection methods where you don't get a bonus. Just filter through these until somebody wants to ask a question or sees one that interests them.
I'm coming in late, y'all. I'm actually working too, so you can hear my background. Okay, so I'm sorry. What have we already discovered? I'm sorry.
You discovered that the initial compromise was to bring your own exploited device. That VPN logs showed a billing employee's account logged in during normal working hours. The login originated from the employee's registered home IP address. Shortly after the VPN connection, internal file share access began from the session. Endpoint telemetry shows that the VPN session was established from a personal device, not a company-issued laptop, and the personal device is not enrolled in full EDR monitoring, only basic compliance checks.
And now we need to know what we're going to do from there. So we've already identified that it was where the issue is.
Yep, you already found out where they came in from. Now we need to figure out how they moved around, how they exfiltrated data, and how they are maintaining persistence.
I feel like we could do endpoint analysis next, since we kind of pinpointed which device or which employee.
Endpoint analysis. Defenders investigate endpoint devices to identify indicators of compromise, unauthorized changes, or suspicious activities. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that or other ones that you want to look at? Close this while we discuss.
Log in from a system and the system was not registered with the company. So I think endpoint analysis would be great for it.
You've heard of endpoint analysis?
I don't have any other ideas right now, so I'm going to go with the endpoint analysis.
What about to the people who can't talk over voice? Anyone agree or disagree? Give you all a second to type. Nobody else has any thoughts on it? You guys can feel free to unmute or type in the chat. All right. Well, if nobody.
Hello?
Hey,
Hello?
we can hear you.
Yes, sir. I can honestly say with the minor cybersecurity knowledge I have absolutely no knowledge to backdoor and bashes. So how would what template or software program can I get training on?
You mean this is just a tabletop exercise for incident response. So I mean, for practicing that, there's all sorts of rooms on like Try Hack Me and stuff like that. But I mean, right here is a great place to learn. There's no one expects you to be an expert here. This is for beginners. So feel free to ask as many questions as you want, whether it's about what other people think the next step should be, or what things do, or anything like that.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Do you want to do endpoint analysis as well? They're trying to figure out how the attackers are moving.
I am right now working on obviously Sec Plus, but on hack or I think Hack the Box. I'm doing the no Try Hack Me. I'm doing the SOC analyst path, the prerequisites. Then on Hack the Box, I'm doing the Cyber Academy.
Excellent. So this is going to be good practice for yourself. Don't be afraid
Sweet.
to participate or ask questions or suggest things, even if you're unsure of yourself, because this is where you're going to learn. There's people here of
Yes, sir.
varying degrees, and we have Gladys here as a consultant as well, who's, if you have an idea and it's just, not really the right direction, we'll gently nudge you in the right direction. But this is the
Yes, sir.
place to learn.
Thank you, sir. Heck yeah.
Of course. So far, it sounds like everyone's for endpoint analysis that's spoken up.
I wanted to ask, is there an IDS or an IPS in the cards? Because I can't necessarily see them very well. Is there any IPS in the chat? In the card, sorry.
No, this is mostly investigation. I can read the cards out real quick because I know they're kind of hard to read. And then if you have
Oh,
any you want to take a closer look at, I'll open them up bigger. We did firewall log analysis, so we can't do that for a couple turns. We have network threat hunting, isolation, and permissions audit as our established detections. And then for our other detections, we have crisis management, active defense and cyber deception, cloud event log analysis, UEBA, user and entity behavior analytics, endpoint analysis, call consultant, endpoint security protection analysis, physical security review, server analysis, and memory analysis. Once again, I can open any of those up if you're unsure of what they do or didn't quite hear me or anything.
with the endpoint analysis, there's this one before the last one, the fourth before the last one. I didn't get.
Oh, did you mean the endpoint security protection analysis here?
Exactly, yeah, yeah. Endpoint security, yes, exactly. Endpoint security protection analysis, yeah.
Defenders deploy and monitor endpoint security solutions to detect and prevent unauthorized access and activity, I can't speak today, on endpoints. So right now, the two votes are for endpoint analysis and endpoint security protection analysis. And we have new people here.
Can you open
How's
up the
it going, Shaka?
endpoint analysis one again?
Of course. Defenders investigate endpoint devices to identify IOCs, unauthorized changes, or suspicious activities.
So I think we should go with this one because it's the indicators of compromise, unauthorized changes, suspicious activities, which is what we're investigating.
True. Why don't we do a vote then in the chat? If anybody needs me to open the other one up again, just let me know. But right now it's either analysis or give us your votes in the chat and then we will move on from there. Endpoint analysis, we got 2 for that. 3 for that. Or not 2. How's it going, Shaka? Did you hear how this works and what we're doing right now?
I just dropped in 5 minutes ago. My apologies for the tardiness on that.
Oh, that's no problem at all. We're just happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Here, I'll give you the quick rundown real quick before we finalize this vote here, because right now it's 2 and 1. This morning, the chief compliance officer got an email from a third-party threat intelligence partner saying that patient records were found on a dark web forum for sale. It includes names, dates of birth, insurance information, partial social security numbers, and there's no reported outages, ransomware notes, support tickets, or active security incidents, and all core systems are operational. So far, we have discovered that the initial compromise came from a bring your own device that was exploited. And we're trying to figure out between endpoint analysis currently and endpoint security protection analysis to see if we can figure out how the attacker was moving through the systems.
Okay.
Endpoint analysis, the defenders investigate endpoint devices to identify IOCs, unauthorized changes, or suspicious activity. And then endpoint security protection analysis, the defenders deploy and monitor endpoint security solutions to detect and prevent unauthorized access and activity on endpoints. So far, we have 2 votes for endpoint analysis and 1 vote for endpoint security protection analysis. How's it going, Jessica? All right, who wants to be our tiebreaker? Because we have 2 and 2 for endpoint analysis and endpoint security protection analysis.
So I guess I'll come in here. I think endpoint analysis is the way to go right now. We're not dealing with protection right now because we're still trying to see what's going on. So let's go with endpoint analysis.
All right. How's it going, Christian? We will do endpoint analysis here. That is a 3. That is a failed roll. Who is our initial? I think Pablo, I think you were the one that initially said endpoint analysis. Do you want to tell me why that one didn't work out? Financial, political, technological. Just make up a reason. It helps you think of, because there's a million reasons why something might not work necessarily, not necessarily because of not the information not being there, but because of other reasons. So
Can you click on that card again?
yeah, of course.
Is it because we already know how the system was infiltrated, or how the device the device that was compromised?
This one you failed because of the dice roll. So we don't know for sure that endpoint analysis would have worked. And in a real environment, there, like I said, there's a million things that could cause it to fail. So a good thought exercise for this is when one of them fails because of the dice roll rather than lack of information, um, just explaining, just coming up with a reason why it might not have worked. The rules suggest political, financial, technical, something like that.
I guess it could be like technical, maybe. Just because in the beginning of the scenario, it said that this traffic is coming from a device that's not registered in the environment. It's a personal device from the employee. So maybe they don't have access to that device at this time to look at. So because the endpoint is not, if you go back to the scenario on the top, I think. So at this time, they're not reported this. Let me go back to where it said. So it says, where is it at? There was a space where I want you guys to understand where that point is coming from. Um,
Was it from this section down here?
okay, yeah, from the initial, yep. So the last part says the personal device is not enrolled in full EDR monitoring, only basic compliance. So it may have something like CrowdStrike or Defender on. It may not have any of that because it's a personal device. It said the login originated on the second bullet says the login originated from the employee's registered home IP address, and then shortly after that there was blah blah blah. Endpoint telemetry shows the VPN session was established from a personal device, not a company issued laptop. So it's not their work laptop, it's from their personal device that's coming from, which explains why there may not be full EDR monitoring on that system. So in my opinion, that may be one of the reasons why we may not be able to access the endpoint logs there. Anyone has any other inputs there?
I think that sounds great.
Yeah, and these
So
are the challenges you see in the real world.
yeah, there's a lot of them.
To go another route.
So amount of data we can analyze on the device is limited. True.
That is
All
correct.
right. So that one didn't work. It wasn't necessarily that there's nothing to be found, just that we didn't find anything that time. Where do you guys want to go next? Do you guys want to take a look at endpoint security protection analysis, or do you guys want to take a look at a different card? A couple people filtered in and out.
Um,
Looks like.
I'm sorry, Hayden. I think there is a user base UBA something. Please
Yeah,
open that
user and
card. There is
entity
this user.
behavior analytics. Defenders
Yeah,
leverage
exactly.
Defenders leverage advanced analytics to detect anomalies in user behavior, identifying potential insider threats, compromised accounts, or unusual activity patterns. Does anybody agree or disagree with that? Do you know what you're looking for with that, Samuel?
Yeah, I think since there was a login, I think the user and entity behavior analysis should also be able to help us analyze, if actually these files were exfiltrated and where the files were going to, and if there is, let's say if there is another two-party login, because I believe that when
Yeah, that makes sense.
it
We
was
know that it
downloaded, so
came.
maybe he downloaded files or something.
Yeah, we know it came from an internal user's account. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
2 seconds. I also agree with endpoint analysis.
Endpoint analysis, where Samuel was asking about user and entity behavior analytics. But I mean, you guys do still have the ability to try endpoint analysis again if you guys would like to.
I think that user and entity behavior analytics is a good one too, because if this user has been connecting to VPN at a certain time or whatnot, we can see that.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Anybody against UEBA?
I actually think that's the better option.
All right. We'll give it just a couple more seconds to see if anybody disagrees. And if not, we'll go ahead and do this one. All right. Let's go. Is that gonna roll? There. 13. Success. And real quickly, we will put that
Yay,
there.
great job, guys.
Yeah, great job, guys. Let's see what
That's
we
how you do it.
find.
Hayden, I do have a question if you don't mind.
Yeah.
How did you can figure out its success or not success here? What tool are you using?
Oh, in this game, we roll a
Sorry,
dice.
I came late. Sorry about that.
No, it's no problem. Here, real quickly, let me. Unfortunately, UEBA did not reveal anything. There was nothing to be found with that. Um, but then to give a rundown of the game for anybody else who might have missed it, you guys are going to ask me clarifying questions and discuss amongst yourselves and decide which detections you want to try and do to figure out, at this point, the pivot and escalation, the exfil, and the persistence. And then it's as simple as rolling a dice. If you get 1 to 10, it's not successful, even if it would have been successful. And then you guys will explain your reasoning why that might not have worked in that situation. And then if it's 11 to 20, it's a successful one. And if it, as we can see here, this lists a few detection methods. So if you did, like we did, firewall log analysis, we got, I think, like a 13 as well on that one. And that was a detection for this, so I revealed this to you guys. It's all about discussing and thinking about the attacker's steps and what they're trying to do and what they already did do. But since we did UEBA and we know it didn't work, we can put an X there. We're not gonna need that.
Did that clarify it for you, Kenny, or do you want Hayden to go through the scenario again? I think you came late.
Yes, please. If you
Of
don't
course.
Yeah,
mind.
you might want to repeat the scenario, Hayden, because some people came in.
Yeah, of course. This morning, the chief compliance officer got an email from a third-party threat intelligence partner that said that samples of patient records associated with the hospital were identified for sale on a dark web forum. It includes names, dates of birth, insurance information, and partial social security numbers. There's currently no outages, no ransomware notes, no support tickets, and no known active security incidents. All core systems are operational, and so far we have discovered that the initial compromise was through a bring your own exploited device. VPN logs showed successful login from a billing employee's account during normal work hours. The login originated from the employee's registered home IP address. Shortly after the VPN connection, internal file share access began from that session. Endpoint telemetry shows that the VPN session was established from a personal device and not a company-issued laptop. And the personal device is not enrolled in full EDR monitoring, only basic compliance checks. So now you guys have to wait one more turn for firewall log analysis. And we know UEBA, we had a successful execution of that, but there was nothing to be found. So at this point, it's up to us to discuss, ask any clarifying questions you might have, and figure out what we want to try and do next and what we're going to try and detect with it. Does anybody have any cards that you guys want me to take a closer look at, or do you guys want me to list them again?
So Hayden, the user and entry that did not work, or it did work? I think I'm confused about that one. Did
You
it not
guys
work?
got a successful roll for it, so it did work, but there was nothing to be found.
Nothing to be found. Okay.
So even if you guys rolled a 20 for that one, you guys still wouldn't find anything relevant to what you guys are looking for.
So we're still looking to see what the attacker is doing in the system.
Yep. You guys need to know how they're moving, how they're exfiltrating, and how they're maintaining a foothold.
Okay. I
Can you
do
flip over
have.
the network threat hunting card?
Of course. Defenders analyze network traffic to actively hunt for signs of malicious activity, such as unusual protocols, C2 communication, or data exfiltration. Were you about to ask something, Connie?
Yes. Yeah. Based on the right side, about initial compromise, bring your own device. I just for yeah. Yeah. So if I understand, based on that, we have to find on the left side like the detections, right?
We already found the detection for that one. Right now, we need to find these ones. This is what we have discovered through our firewall log analysis earlier.
Okay.
And because that one was successful, we have to wait one more turn before we could try that again, if that was something anyone wanted to do.
Okay.
And then Brittany was asking about network threat hunting. After taking a closer look at that one, do you want to make an argument for that, Brittany, or do you want to try something else?
I want to flip one more card. The server, the one about the server.
Server.
I think
Server
it says
analysis. There we
server,
go.
yeah, server analysis.
Defenders monitor server activity, logs, and configurations to detect abnormal behaviors, such as unauthorized access, unusual traffic, or process anomalies.
I mean, they're already on the network, and they infiltrated through the bring your own device. We need to know how they're going, how they're maneuvering through the network, and how they're infiltrating. Oh, this is tricky.
It's a good thought process, though. You're on the right track. Anybody else have any suggestions or cards you want to look at?
mm,
See, I was thinking along the same lines as Brittany because we looked at the endpoints already and we haven't found anything, so we need to go deeper. So
You're thinking server?
I
You
was
agree,
thinking
or
of server, yeah.
server analysis?
I'm torn
Anybody
between
else?
network. I'm torn between server and network. And they got in through the bring your own device. So it was a mobile device or something.
There is a key word that can make an argument here, but I don't want
So
to
I
give
don't
it.
think we're ready for the network yet because of the C2 communication. I think that'd be the next step.
Let's see.
So,
You don't think
I'm gonna chime in here and give you guys a bit of direction. So click on server for me, Hayden, please.
server? Yeah.
Yeah, the server analysis one. So in the server analysis one, you're seeing more of unauthorized access, unusual traffic, and all these things. But remember, we said the original compromise is coming from an employee, which I don't think it's a server in any way, though. But you guys can still check it out. I'm just providing direction. And then the other card that they're looking at, that one talks more about C2 communication. So that's command and control for those who don't understand that. And most attacks involves command and control when it comes to what the attacker is trying to do, right? So that's an easy one to understand. So if you were to look at network threat hunting here, you will be looking for suspicious or malicious activity involving any C2 communication, which is very likely to see. I'm not saying this is the answer, but I'm just trying to give you guys direction and describe to you what to expect when you'll be looking at this one specifically. Or if you were to look at the server, think more of, okay, if the attacker was in the environment right now, and like they said, they are using a personal device, right? But are they, in terms of the server, are they trying to access, what are they trying to access? Are they trying to access any specific information? And if they're trying to access any specific information, how did they get there, basically? And where was all of this information stored that was leaked? So I wanted to provide a bit of feedback there. Hopefully that helps you guys to move forward.
That being said, does anybody have any opinions on what we should do?
Yeah, I think I would go with the network threat hunting because C2, actually the command and control, is part of the cyber chain. So I think um, that's actually because since the laptop are connected to the network, I think we should have something there in the network traffic. So I think I'll go with it.
I'm gonna go. I'm
Yep.
gonna go with that one too because
So
that was my first. That was my first one. I'm gonna go with
Me
network
too.
too with you, Samuel.
Network threat hunting, yes, I believe.
So you all vote in the chat if you can't unmute yourself. Let Hayden know if you want to go with network threat hunting or you want to go with the server analysis here. And remember, we're talking about our data being exfiltrated. So think critically and say what you go to. And let's try to move it on faster, like Hayden. Time is going.
No.
Yeah.
All right. So most people So far, I've said network threat hunting, and in the chat, that's what it looks like. Connie, when you say command and control, are you agreeing with the network threat hunting here?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, let's try it. And that one's an established detection, so we get +3. Why is it? No. Okay, that one was a success. That goes away. And let me see. All right, so that reveals.
Hedin, how you can know that it's success or not success? I'm sorry, I'm just.
It's the dice roll here. When you guys roll, or when you decide on one, I roll the dice. If it's 1 to 10, then it's a failed roll, even if it would have been successful. And
Like
if it's
you select we select network threat hunting. Did you drag into dice box or what do you do?
oh no, I just roll the dice once you guys decide which one you want to do. So you guys decided on network threat hunting. I rolled the dice, and you guys got 11, which that would have been successful anyways. But especially because it's an established detection, that would have made it 14, and you only need 11 to be successful. But
Did you type did you type 3 over there, or I just confused? It's a little different
oh
way.
no, I just add that on in my head if it's an established detection. It's just based off of the dice roll here. So if
Okay. How did you
so,
get 11? Okay.
how did I
How
get
did
what?
you get 11 in dice box?
So let me explain it a little better to her. So how this works is, remember, Hayden is not the one controlling the platform, right? Backdoors and Bridges
Mhm,
is literally a platform. They do all of this for you. You just log
mhm,
in and he creates the scenario and makes this happen. So you see where it says dice box? He can,
mhm,
every time he wants to roll, he just clicks on that and roll the dice. You can roll at any time, and when you roll,
mhm,
it gives you a number based on
mhm,
whatever you have chosen. It gives you a number. It doesn't mean that that number is it's reflecting your response. It doesn't mean your response is correct or wrong. It's just make it
mhm,
the game fun, right? And if you roll, you get within 1 to 10, then that's a fail. That's not a good thing. It's just the game again. It's not necessarily mean that the answer is correct or wrong. It just means that that's the number you got. But then if
mhm,
you get that 1 to 10, then one of you guys have to explain why did that fail? Why do you think that might have failed? Why is it not endpoint analysis? Why is it not network? What happened in the company or something like that? And then if you get from 11 and above, then that's a good roll. Then we don't have to explain anything. Kind of make it a game fun. And then while he's
mhm,
rolling, he places these numbers 1, 2, 3 and stuff to make sure that we don't like redo something we already did, or um, kind of figure the same thing we already figured out. After some time, you can reuse a card that you used before if you want to, but you can't use them successively after another. I think that's my understanding of backdoors and breaches. So that's why he
mhm,
puts these numbers, so we remember that, hey, we already used this and we failed. Like you can see the one on the bottom, the user and entity behavior, we already used that
mhm.
and we failed that it didn't give us any information, so there's no need in coming back to use it,
Okay,
if
hold
that
on.
makes sense,
So,
right?
like for network threat hunting, is 3, right? Is 3 over there, right?
Hmm.
You have to put the number if I understand, right?
the 3 is how many turns you have to wait before using it. If you say you try isolation next turn and you roll a 1, you would fail it, you'd explain it, and then we'd go on to the next turn. But if you tried it and you rolled 15 and it was successful, I would put the 3 on it, and you'd have to wait 3 turns. It's just that you can't do like firewall log analysis one after the other unless unless you failed it, and then
Yep.
you are welcome to try it again at that point. Um, and when you guys just did network threat hunting, you
Mm-hmm.
guys revealed the C2/exfil. which is Background Intelligence Transfer Service, BITS, as exfil. The attackers are using legitimate services to send stolen data to a remote server. And with that, I have some information for you guys down here. The affected system shows the creation of a background intelligence transfer service job. The job was configured to upload compressed archive files to an external HTTPS endpoint. Transfers occurred in small chunks over several hours during normal business activity. Outbound traffic volume did not spike dramatically, but there was a steady pattern of repeated connections, and the external domain does not match known business partners. And I will add that information in. All right. So yeah, now you guys know how they got in, and you know how they're taking the data. Any new cards you guys want to look at, or anything you want to discuss? I can read through the cards again.
Yep. So next step, to give direction, we are looking at persistence, right? Just like the card stays. So now that they got that, we look at, oh, we still have pivot and escalate that we haven't not covered. Okay. So you guys you just did pivot and escalate, right, Hayden?
We were trying to find how they were pivoting and escalating, but while doing network threat hunting, instead we found how they were exfiltrating.
Okay. So we still need how they pivoted. You're still looking for that then. And then you're also looking for persistence. So why they were in, how did they stay in? How did they make sure that they don't get kicked out? So thinking of for persistence, you're thinking more of how to stay in.
Permissions.
So like how to maybe the attacker created a different account, you have permissions, admin accounts, and all that good stuff on persistence. I'm not saying that's the card, but again, just providing direction on what to look for. And then you still have pivot and escalate open. So yep.
I want to look at that permissions card.
Permissions on it. Defenders examine configurations such as IAM roles in Microsoft AD, Amazon Web Services, Azure AD permissions, or file access controls to detect excessive privileges, unauthorized access, or potential insider threats.
My advice would be for you guys to focus first on the pivot and escalate, just because you want to make sure you're following the incident response plan accordingly. Um, like persistence is the last thing, right? That's the last thing that the attacker tries to do. So to make sure they stay in. So let's focus for now on pivot and escalate. So once the attacker was in the network, what did they do? How did they escalate to other systems? How did they get to this server? Now they got the information to the from the server, but how did they get from that employee's machine to the server?
So I think now because we got the external HTTPS endpoints and there's more traffic going through, I think we need to do some sort of endpoint, like look at that traffic.
Which one did you say again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Um, either endpoint analysis again or endpoint security. I don't think it'd be the protection though.
What does everyone else think? You guys want to try endpoint analysis? Feel free to unmute and say something or type it in the chat, whichever works for any of you.
Yeah, you can suggest other things. You can agree, you can disagree, whatever you want to do. I already have an idea of what's next, but I will let you guys figure things out.
You guys can use call a consultant to ask Gladys.
I think either endpoint analysis or permissions audit, because we know which device it is, but what kind of permissions does this bring your own device have? that allows them to
That's a good point.
pop.
All right, so I'll read through these again. Defenders examine configurations such as IAM roles in Microsoft AD, AWS, and Azure AD permissions or file access controls to detect excessive privileges, unauthorized access, or potential insider risks. And then endpoint analysis. The defenders investigate endpoint devices to identify IOCs, unauthorized changes, or suspicious activities. We did do this one earlier, but it was just a failed roll, so we don't know yet what that one might reveal.
And what are we trying to figure out how they're being persistent or how they're pivoting and escalating?
You're ideally looking for how they're escalating and moving around first, because the persistence is the last thing the attacker is going to want to try and do. Giving us
Yep.
the rest of this to give us a clearer picture into how they might be maintaining persistence.
Yep. So you're thinking more like if someone had access to your network right now, unauthorized access, what is something else that you would do in order to move laterally to another area of the network, to another machine, to another server, whatever? Where would you find the logs that will tell you how they're moving? Is the key.
Any thoughts after that, guys?
I don't know. I'm still kind of leaning toward the permissions. It seems like I'm jumping
I
the gun.
think is endpoint analysis.
So I wrote it in the chat. Why don't we take a vote now that we heard what Gladys thinks about the two processes as opposed to each other, and see what we think. Sticking with permissions.
Gladys, can you shed your light again and say what you just said? I'm sorry, y'all. My brain is.
Okay, I know. All right. So, with respect to these 2 points, right? I don't want to say the answer, but I can tell you guys the way you should be thinking. In terms of what is pivot and escalate, right? That's the next step we're looking at in the incident response plan. So when someone has access to your network, if you, for example, you yourself, you were trying to hack or get information from a company, you are already in the network. You got access to one of the employees' devices. What is your next step? Because if they notice that you are there, they're going to kick you out. Your next step is to make sure that you get this onto other machines as well. You also pivot to other laptop servers, whatever you want to pivot to. So, what is the way that you would use to do that? But for you, the defender, what you're looking here is how did the attacker do it? And that's why it's so important to understand both sides of the attacker and the defender, blue team versus red teaming. So you have to think in terms of the attacker, how would they accomplish this? And if they accomplish this, if they made sure to move laterally to other hosts, where can I find this? If I was investigating as a SOC analyst, what logs would I need? Would I need the endpoint detection logs or would I need the permissions audit logs? And Hayden, open one of the cards, please, and we'll kind of go through what they are. So in the endpoint analysis logs here, it will help you identify the indicators of compromise, that is like IP addresses, host names, and also you'll find like file hashes if they put up any files, whatever. Those are IOCs, right? And then it will also help you detect any unauthorized changes and suspicious activity. That's one thing. So is that what you're looking for? You ask yourself, will that tell me what's going on other machines? And then on the other card, we have the permissions audit. So here, permissions audit is more of IAM, so related to identities. So you'll be looking at, okay, how are the roles currently set up in the environment? And here sounds like they're looking more at AWS, or Azure, whatever the company is using. Um, whatever the controls are for file access. So if someone was wanting to access a file, what is your permission? So this is more permissions related. So now you're asking yourself, if I get into these logs, am I going to be able to see how someone pivoted from one machine to another based on the privileges here that I have? Because this is all that is. So am I going to be able to see that? Those are the two scenarios, the best way I can explain them. Hopefully you all are able to decide, but yeah, let's move on faster.
All
Okay,
right, so
after that, I'm thinking maybe server analysis if we want to take a look at activities and logs and see movements.
right now the vote is between server analysis, endpoint analysis, and permissions audit. It sounds like is what people are currently thinking. Why don't you guys put your votes in the chat? Give you guys a few moments to do that, and then we will go from there.
And I think Scotty is here. Scott, feel free to chime in as well if you have any inputs for them.
We got endpoint analysis as a vote.
Yeah, yeah. I think the endpoint analysis will be best because, like Gladys said, it shows both the IP addresses, the hashes, the events, and also it also shows if a file has been downloaded or something like that. If there is a movement or if there is a technique like MITRE chain technique of let's say it's a MITRE chain, yeah, MITRE attack technique of masquerading of maybe an input of any kind of file. So I think the endpoint analysis is great.
All right, looks like we have a few people agreeing in the chat there. Scott, I don't know if you saw, I sent you in school a copy of all the stuff that they've gotten so far, if that helps.
I think I'm gonna go with endpoint.
All right, endpoint analysis. See what we get. 18. Nice, guys. So this goes to 2, goes to 3. It reveals that they use access token manipulation. They conducted actions under other user/service account tokens. So I got some information here for you. Great job, guys. On the billing workstation, logs show unusual access to internal file shares that the user has permission for, but at odd times in higher volume than normal. Security logs indicate authentication activity without additional password prompts. There are no signs of brute force or password spreading. Memory artifacts suggest a token associated with the logged in billing user was reused for additional internal connections, and access to a secondary file server originated from the same VPN session without re-authentication.
There you go, guys. Congrats, you unlocked the pivot on how they pivoted. That's really good. I wanted you guys to figure that out. Again, it's just the way you think, right? It's all about what am I looking for? Don't just get confused with these cards. Just think, what am I looking for and where can I find that?
You guys are on the right track. You guys are doing great. The last one we need to figure out is persistence. How they're staying in our systems. We know how they got in, how they moved, and how they took data. any cards that anyone wants to look at, or does anybody want me to read the available cards? If it's hard for you to see, I understand that.
So I think this
So
one we need permissions on it to see. I mean, I know they have the tokens and all that, but
so I'll give a quick view on this one before you guys get going. We uncovered the first three, right? The last one is persistence. And in thinking like an incident responder, persistence is more like once you are in the environment, you want to make sure that even if the account for the employee that you compromise is being kicked out, because once the security team finds out, they're going to kick you out, right? They're going to try to close everything, quarantine the device, and blah blah blah. So you want to make sure that even if they do that, you still have access via other endpoints, right? So with persistence, the attacker tries to create different maybe user accounts, elevate privileges, create maybe admin accounts, root accounts, and stuff like that. So think in that direction of okay, if I'm trying to be persistent in the environment, what would I do, and again, where would I find those logs?
It will be in the permission audit.
I think that's what Pablo was thinking too, unless you feel differently after Gladys's advice. So far, we got 2, and maybe Pablo for permissions audit.
yeah, I think I'm going to stay with that.
Anybody against permissions audit?
Any other cards that anyone might want to look at?
Isolation, crisis management, active defense and cyber deception, cloud event log analysis, call a consultant, endpoint security protection analysis, physical security review, server analysis, and memory analysis. So far, everyone says permissions audit. All right. Why does it keep not working? Step 4. So I believe Connie was the one that initially suggested permissions audit. Do you want to tell us why that didn't work? Political, financial, technical? Anyone can chime in with that as well. Anyone got a reason?
Why it did not work?
Yeah, because you only failed because of the dice roll, not because there was no information to be found that we know of, at least. So a good thought process is to think of why it might have failed, because there's a million other reasons it could fail. So you can think like political, financial, technical, some other reason why it might not have worked other than we couldn't find the information that we needed.
Maybe technical.
Maybe the permissions in AD weren't properly configured. Anybody have any other cards that they would like to look at? Where do you guys want to try your hand again at permissions audits? Feel free to unmute or type it in the chat. I can look at any cards up closer if you guys want.
I say let's try again with permissions audit.
Anybody else want to try that again?
We're questioning the persistence now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I say we try one more time. Worst case scenario, it fails, and we know that we can rule that out.
All right. Anybody agree or disagree with that? All right. So we got a couple people who want to try it again. Let's go. That one was a success. I also forgot to change these real quick. Let's squash it. No. Okay, there we go. 13 success. Let's see if that is. That unfortunately is not a detection method for your persistence. We're down to 3 turns. We just got a notification saying that legal counsel is informing us that because of the nature of these records, the state is notifying us that the deadline is now 24 hours from discovery rather than the normal 30 to 60 days. Pressure's building, guys. We got one more to find.
And what do we need to find now?
We need to figure out their persistence method. We know that permissions audit is just a no-go. There's nothing there.
So what about the endpoint security protection analysis?
Defenders deploy and monitor endpoint security solutions to detect and prevent unauthorized access and activity on endpoints. You want to try that? Does anybody have any other cards you want
Yeah,
to look at?
I want to try that.
Connie wants to try endpoint security protection analysis. What do you guys think?
Let's do it.
Anyone against it? All right. We'll go ahead and give it a try. 15, success. Yeah. And with that, you guys reveal the last card, which was malicious service. Attackers create or modify system services in order to maintain long-term access to a compromised system. Got a little bit of information and the full story for you guys. Congratulations, guys. So persistence was malicious servers. Windows event ID 7045 appears in system logs, indicating a new service installation. Service name closely resembles a legitimate system process. The executable path points to a directory outside standard Windows system folders. The service is configured to run as system and start automatically. File hash of the associated executable does not match known legitimate software. I'll put this here, and then the final story is started with a billing employee who regularly connects to the hospital VPN from their personal laptop installed what looks like a normal vendor update at home, but it wasn't. It quietly dropped a backdoor, and since the device was personally owned and only LightMe monitored, nothing flagged it. The next time they logged into the VPN during a normal workday, the attacker effectively walked into the network using completely valid access. Instead of doing anything loud like password spraying or brute forcing accounts, The attacker stayed inside that user's session. They reused the employee's active authentication token to access internal file shares the billing team had already had permission to use. No failed logins, no cracked passwords, just legitimate identity abuse from the logs. It looked like a normal user behavior, just a little heavier than usual. After identifying patient billing data, the attacker compressed the files and used Background Intelligence Transfer Service, or BITS, to send data out in small chunks over HTTPS. BITS is a legitimate Windows service that runs in the background all the time, so the traffic blended in. No bandwidth spike and no obvious data dump moment, just steady outbound connections that didn't look dramatic on the surface. Before wrapping up, they created a new Windows service configured to run as system and start automatically. The name looked close enough to a real system process that it wouldn't immediately raise suspicion. That meant that if the VPN session ended or the employee changed their password, the attacker would still have a way back in. Days later, Threat Intel finds patient billing data being sold online. That's when the pieces connected, and it was discovered this wasn't ransomware, and rather it was a quiet identity base and built almost entirely on legitimate tools. Sorry. That's it. Congratulations, guys. And I think this is the first time we've done it with more than one turn remaining. So thank you everyone for coming and
Yeah,
participating.
great job, you guys. That's very cool. And again, as you move into your career, just keep thinking, how can I analyze better? How can I think better? And these sessions are to help you reinforce that knowledge that you learn theoretically to be able to apply them here. Like these are real things that you learn in other concept in the security plus everywhere, but implementing them in the real environment is harder than you think. As you can see, sometimes you look at logs and you don't see something, you get frustrated, you come back the next day, and that's just how that's how it works in the work environment. So you're not always going to find what you're looking for. So implementing that, what you're learning in terms of theory back to practical, it's a great way to succeed. And like I said in the beginning, keep in mind that you can always use this setup as one of your interview presentations to kind of tell the interviewer about what you did with backdoors and breaches, how you contributed, how the incident went through. And we always post these recordings everywhere so that you guys have access to it, and you can always go back to the scenario and build your own thing that you can use in your interviews, or even talk to your peers about it, or whatever you may want to do. We do this once a month for now, so the next one will be next month on same day, Thursday of next month. I think it's always the first Thursday of the month.
Yep.
So great job, guys. Thanks for participating and being here and continuing to learn. um, all we do ask is that you go back to the community or even on your LinkedIn profile. These are great things to share on your LinkedIn to say, hey, I participated in the Backdoors and Breaches for the first time. This was my experience. Share on your LinkedIn. That's how you can start building your personal brand. You can also make a post in the community and share what you learned here, and kind of encourage other people. It's all I'm encouraging you guys to do. But outside of that,
One
thank you for coming.
last little
Gladys.
thing.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
You go
I
ahead.
was gonna ask a question for both Gladys and Hayden. So when we do these, is I guess I'm gonna ask a question. I know these, like you said, in real world, they're all gonna be different. So it's not a one size fit all for these. You just kind of have to, depending on the situation. Does it get
Yep.
easier as we do it, or?
The more you can learn to think like an attacker and a defender, the easier this will be, because as Gladys pointed out, there's a lot of things where it's just like, if you know what you're looking for, you can narrow down. Like generally, permissions audit is probably not going to find you the initial access and things like that.
Yep.
So
So you
it's
just kind of learn as you go, and the more you practice, the better you get, the more you understand what type of things can I find in a specific log type, and so it just gets better. Yep.
and there's one thing they suggest, and I'd love for all of you to come back. So take this. Is if there's one thing that you want to learn from this, just pick one, because if you try to learn everything that we went over today that you don't understand, it's gonna be a chore. And we want you guys to come back and have fun with this. So if there's anything
Okay.
you can do, just pick one single thing that we talked about today and look into that a little bit.
So Hayden, I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with this environment, to be
I should go
honest.
there.
That's
Thank you.
why. Are you able to hear me?
I can
Yeah,
hear
you
you.
said something, Kenny?
Yeah. I say something. I say I'm not familiar with this environment. This is my first time. So if like I wanna see this one again, because where I can find it, I
You
have
mean
to.
like the site itself, or do you mean like this
Yes, the
scenario
site
specifically?
itself.
Oh, I'll send it
Yeah,
to you in the chat.
excuse me.
Right there.
Yep, you just
Um,
go to Backdoors and Breaches, and you can also, there are a lot of YouTube videos on it. You can also look on YouTube to understand more
Okay.
how it works and stuff.
Okay.
there's a bunch of
Okay.
different decks and stuff too. We've only really done the core V3 deck though. I do think this one was from the expansion here, but
Yeah, I'm a little confused how it works, how you play the game, how
yeah.
everything. Of course, I understand a little bit the concept, but
If you
just
look
this
on
is
my
my first time.
post,
Just
I don't know
uh-huh.
if I posted it in my post yesterday, but one of my recent posts about this week's session, if you just look up
Okay.
backdoors and breaches on school, you'll see them, and they have links to my original post that talks about how the game works, and then that post has a link to the official instructions, which includes a video of how it
Okay.
works. But there's no pressure to be an expert or to know everything here. This is for all experience levels. It's just fun practice
Mm-hmm.
education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you all so much for coming and participating. It was a lot of fun, and you guys did a great job. Great discussions, and I look forward to seeing you all next month.
Thank you all so much for having this. Like this is my first experience of like working as a team to figure something out like this. So it
It's a
was a
lot.
great experience.
It's a lot of fun, and it's a good experience because you're gonna need to be able to communicate as a team. So I'm glad we could help you guys with that. And like I said, I hope I can see you guys next month. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, you too.
You too. You too.
Bye bye.